and welcome to the channel. If you want to learn from failure, this is the place to be. Hit that subscribe button and that bell icon if you haven't already. Also, fill out the form in the description of this video if you want to share what you've learned from failure. So let's get started. This week's failure hit me pretty hard last year. I've been working on a Saturn Sky EV conversion since March of 2018. It's gone through several iterations since then. January of 2021, I was starting to make some real progress. I picked up a Model S P100D motor off of eBay. The pictures looked really good. Like, I didn't see any problems. It didn't look like the motor had been submerged. It just looked a little dirty, nothing out of the ordinary for used parts. We still had moments also too on eBay at that time that people really didn't fully comprehend what they had in their hands when it came to Tesla parts. It wasn't advertised as a P100D motor. It wasn't advertised as anything other than a Tesla large drive unit. So the price being around $3,000, it was in line with other base model large drive units. When I got the motor in, I took measurements. I ended up starting to cut the frame because dead set that I'm going to do a Tesla large drive unit, preferably a performance motor. So I cut the frame based off of the measurements I got from the motor. Well, I actually started helping out somebody else on their EV conversion. Their motor actually ended up being bad. Their motor was bad for the control board within the drive unit. It was easily replaceable, and Stealth EV replaced the board pretty quickly. So, one of the ways we tested it is we measured the phases to the case, and his was good. Mine, on the other hand, when I got home that day, it was bad. Like, it, if there was a definitive like binary good bad, it was bad. Like, it was definitively bad. There was no getting around it. So I cracked it open, and sure enough, it had corrosion on one of the inverter legs. It had rust on the copper. It had rust on the stator. It was bad. It was seriously bad. So that eBay seller, even though they didn't advertise that it worked or anything like that, they got me good. They got me good. So what did I do? I decided to use the motor as a template because I was going to use a Tesla large drive unit anyway. So I started trying to pretty much rip all the copper out of it, and the stator being sealed in the way it is, you have to heat it up, and I didn't have an oven to actually stick this thing in and cook it the way you typically pull all this stuff out. So I'm using a blowtorch after blowtorch after blowtorch, weeks, months of just trying to rip this copper out strand by strand. And I finally gave up. Well, I also decided that the purchase price of a performance Model S motor from a known good source was a little too high for what I could afford. So I ended up looking into the Model 3 motors. The Model 3 motors, if you didn't know, within the first 2 to 3 years, all the motors are identical. So if you have a performance Model 3, then you have the same motor as the standard range or the long range Model 3. It's just the software is different that gives the performance Model 3 more power. You can pick up a Model 3 motor as long as it's a 980 motor, you have a performance motor. So, picked up the Model 3 motor back in December, picked up the EV controls controller, picked up the iPad, the Tesla charger board, um, got everything together in December and put it together in January. At the end of January, I was finally able to get the Model 3 motor spinning, and the success that was pretty awesome. But that's not where the stories with this EV conversion end. That's where they're beginning. We have another story that will be out in 2 weeks for the Tesla charger that I have. So before we get out of here, I want to give you all a weekend safety brief. Don't add to the population, don't subtract from the population. Don't go to the hospital unless you absolutely have to, but avoid it as much as possible. And definitely stay out of jail. I will catch you all next week for Winning Wednesday. And then we'll be back here on Friday with a Fast Fail Friday. You all have a good week. And don't forget to hit that like button. Later.